This is A to Z with Mark Zinno, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, where today I ask you to get your focus back on the right thing. Welcome in. We are live here on this Friday, a football Friday, if you will, and we've got a ton to do. Aaron Freeman, Locked On Falcons, going to join us. We'll spend a lot of time today previewing Falcons Seahawks coming up as well. We certainly have some Braves news to get to. I have my college picks and my pro picks coming up before the end of the show to give out for you guys. And, of course, give us a follow on Twitter at LockedOnATL. I'm at Mark Zinno, MarkZinno. And a Football Friday here on A to Z. And let's get right into it with the Atlanta Falcons. And oh, by the way, too, I do want to get into the Celtics and Ime Udoka and the sort of finality of all that as it wrapped up. But, you know, it's interesting. I start looking more and more at this Falcons-Seahawks matchup here. And I start to look at, you know, how the game may break down, how it may play out and everything else. You know, the one thing that I thought we may be complaining about after 2 weeks more than anything, if I had to say before the season started, what would 2 games in do you think you'd see be the biggest issue on the team? One of them would have been the run game, that they just had no effectiveness in the run game because it's been so pervasive for this team for the last couple of years. And they've actually, run the ball really well over the course of the first 2 games. Like, there's no reason to think that they haven't run the ball really well over the first 2 games. So I hope that continues. But the other thing I think most people would have said would have been, in general, the defense, right? The defense. How is this team being able to stop other opponents? Because the defense and the run game were the 2 things that, have been a little bit of a bugaboo. Well, the defense, it's funny because you look at the points they're giving up, and they gave up 31 to the Rams and 27 to the Saints. So you do the math, right? That's 29 points per game. That's not going to cut it. That's going to be bad. But in reality, the defense has had good stretches, but they've also had bad stretches. Fourth quarter against the Saints, first half against the Rams. And, this is a team that's given up around 380 yards per game to the opposing team. But part of me can look at that and go, well, look at the opponents that they played. Now, again, this isn't the Saints with Drew Brees and Sean Payton. It's the Saints with Dennis Allen and Jameis Winston. But still, it's also the Saints with Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, and a whole bunch of really talented players. And then, of course, there's the defending Super Bowl champion Rams, who still have players all over the field and a high-level quarterback in Matthew Stafford. So if anybody said in the first 2 games they'd give up 27 and 31, regardless of whether they win or lose, people would have said, okay, I could see that. Now, what are we looking for this week, and why the focus needs to go back on one thing? They have to be able to slow this Seahawks team and prevent them from scoring. Like, this is not a good offense. I don't care what you saw in week 1. I really don't. Like, I don't care what you saw from Seattle in that game in Denver. That was clearly more of a spot thing. And oh, by the way, they also were shut out in the second half of that game. So in the last 6 quarters of football, they put up exactly 7 points. This is a Falcons defense that needs to have their best game of the year right now. That's not negotiable. If they don't leave Sunday with a stout defensive performance, let's go back to what we thought before the season. The defense is a problem, and it's not getting any better. And Dean Pease, for all of his bluster and all of his, angry curmudgeonness, and that's not a word, but you get the point, for all of his, get off my lawn, and we're going to change the culture around here. If you can't slow down Geno Smith and you can't prevent the Seahawks from scoring, let's just call it 20 points in this game, I don't know what to tell you. Because the question I'll have on Monday is, hey, Coach, I expect you to give up 31 to the Rams and 27 to the Saints. Why are you giving up 30 to the Seattle Seahawks and Geno Smith? Just unacceptable, right? Like, this is an offense that is good enough right now through 3 weeks, the Falcons offense, that is, to get to 24 points in this game. What's the reason to allow Seattle with Geno Smith to score 20? Rashad Penny's their leading rusher. He has 75 yards through 2 games. Tell me. Tell me what about Seattle's offense makes you go, okay, this is what they do well. Because they're only averaging 196 passing yards through 2 games and 56 rushing yards. This is the lowest yardage gaining team in the league right now. And if you can't put together a defensive performance to get this team, then the problem is there. Stop talking to me about Kyle Pitts. Stop talking to me about target share. Stop talking to me about the offense. Because guess what? The offense has played good. Did they get behind the chains against the Rams? Sure. Did they need some special teams help to get back in it? Absolutely. I'm not saying any of those things aren't true. But still, the offense didn't play terrible. Still put up, a good fight against the Rams. You would have liked to see them not turn the ball over 3 times. But this is a Falcons team that absolutely should be able to limit a Seahawks very, very low-level offense. I'm tired of hearing about Kyle Pitts and target share. I'm done. Like I told you guys from the beginning of the year, I said it was derelict that they don't force feed them the ball. I've watched the first 2 games objectively. They're doing everything they can. And when you have a coach that is making Kyle Pitts the primary target on 50% of passing plays, talk to the quarterback. Talk to the quarterback. It's not a play selection. It's not a not calling the guy's number issue. It's a quarterback who doesn't either know how to get the ball in a tight window or doesn't feel confident enough to get the ball in a tight window, or a guy who's checking off his first read when it's not 100% there. That's the reason for it. But by the way, keep feeding Drake London, because let's not talk enough about how good he's been. Just a weird pivot a lot of times with Falcons fans. It really is. But for me, this game is all about the Falcons defense. Go out there and shut down an offense that stinks and can't score. Because if they give up more than 20, I have a problem believing they can win this game. On the road in Seattle, at a place where, all things considered, Seattle's defense isn't terrible. They've been banged up with injuries. But, if you think the Falcons are going to get to 27 in a heartbeat, well, I don't know. I don't necessarily believe that they have an offense to at will continue to score 27 points a game, especially on the road where it's a lot tougher. And remember, the offense didn't score 27 last week, even that's how many points they put up there. The offense only found 20. Block punt for a touchdown. Looks like an offensive score, but it's not. So they have to do better offensively against a average defensive team on the road. But most importantly, they should be able to win this game 23-16. That should be the final. All right, Aaron Freeman of Locked on Falcons is going to join us here in a minute. But first, a word from our friends at BetOnline.net, the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your sports betting needs. Find your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. You can find reviews and news of every league, including the NFL, obviously college football, Major League Baseball, winding down, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, even golf. It's all there. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They've got you covered. But I'm going to have you covered here, too, on a Football Friday. But I get my information from BetOnline as well. So there you go. Head to BetOnline today. Use your mobile device to learn more about all the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts.